Ellen, welcome to the Big Lab podcast. How are we?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Today we're going to be discussing a recent post that you put up on Instagram. You've been sober for a year, so I guess we'll go right back to the start. What exactly inspired you to go alcohol-free in the first place?
So it wasn't like one specific rock bottom kind of moment. I didn't have this kind of massive dramatic story of sort of ending up in under a hedge, passed out or anything. But it was sort of that accumulation of lots of little things. Of when everybody sort of gets drunk and does drunk texts to people, you sort of having arguments with friends and things like that. And it was that accumulation over years and years of just waking up thinking, God, what have I done? God, what have I done? And it was that point at which I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't enjoy it. I don't like that feeling. And I've listened to so many podcasts and stories from people that say, I wish I'd started sooner. And if I'm sat here thinking, I really wish I would stop drinking, but start going alcohol free now, why would I wait? What's the point in holding back and maybe not? If everybody else looks back and regrets not starting sooner, maybe I should start now and just see what happens.
That makes sense. So, like you say, it wasn't like a really bad moment. It was just an accumulation of small things.
Yeah.
Was there then maybe a trigger in terms of something that you'd seen, like a specific post that said, right, now we're going to do it? Or was it an internal thing?
I think it was more of an internal thing. So I had done, was it in 2020, I had done a Sober October at sort of peak lockdown kind of time. And I just sort of was on my own in my flat and was like, I don't want to be having a glass of wine every night and stuff. I want to see if I can just not. And I actually think back and I think actually that month was a really good month for me. Granted, the COVID lockdown was horrible, but that was a really good month in my life. And so I was thinking back, and that was sort of a trigger point that was like, if I feel so terrible every time after I've been out and drunk with my friends and things like that, why not just emulate that month where I didn't have those feelings and things like that? But also sort of when you wake up hungover after drinking, I would find podcasts, and you always have that, oh God, I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to do it. Everybody has that moment. It's like, I never will. And then the next weekend you are. But I kind of had that point of, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do this. And I would listen to people's stories who actually did that and stuck with it. And I think that kind of played in the back of my mind over and over and over until one day it just stayed and I didn't.
So in lockdown, you did the exact opposite of what everybody else was doing, which was more drinking than ever, I think. And I think that was just to get through those times. But it's interesting you say it, because I think I've said this before on a few podcasts that in our culture within the UK, drinking and going out on a weekend is so ingrained into that sort of culture. So how over the last year has your mindset around alcohol changed?
I think it sounds simple, but I just don't really care anymore. It's that I don't need to have alcohol to have a good time. I don't need to be drunk to enjoy myself. I can think back the last time I had a drink, and I know this date. It's really clear in my mind, and I can tell you exactly what I drank, and where I was and who I was with. I was at a Swiftageddon Taylor Swift night with my friend, and I'd had one double vodka Red Bull, and I got to the end of the night and thought, well, I didn't need it. I still danced, I still sang, and I just thought I really could have just not had it for the whole night, and it would have changed nothing. And I think that really sparked to me that was like, I just don't need to do it anymore. I don't need that sort of push. And so my mindset is more that I just don't, it sounds so simple, but I just don't really care.
Yes. I think I've had a sort of similar thought recently, not necessarily cutting alcohol out completely, but thinking of whether it's going to benefit the situation I'm in. Like you say, one drink isn't going to get you the desired effect of drinking alcohol, so to speak. So in those situations, I'm now tending to opt for something else. I actually like the taste of beer and stuff like that. So every now and again on a weekend, I might feel like a beer. So now I've just got a load of zero alcohol beers in the fridge. There's quite a few good ones out there now. So when I just fancy that taste of beer maybe on a Friday after work. I can get that hit and it's done. One drink, and I'm sorted. And I think there's a lot of people now in their 20s and 30s that are moving towards sort of less alcohol. You see the rise of things like high roxes and half marathons. Everyone says when you get in your late 20s and your 30s, the sort of half
Yeah.
marathon comes along. But if you've got to do all that training, obviously a night out on a Friday or Saturday, you're not going to be able to get up for that run in the morning. Or if you do, it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
So what were the biggest challenges for you then at the start of quitting alcohol? Did you struggle in any way, or were there any sort of social pressures from friends to go out and drink? How did you manage it?
I think with regards to sort of pressures from friends, I think I've got really lucky in the friend group that I've got and where I am now, is that people weren't really bothered if you drank or not,
Right.
but you were still more than welcome to come to anything. But if anything, they were more grateful because they had a designated driver to take them home. They didn't have to wait for the bus in the rain. And so it was like, yeah, you can come along to everything and you can take us there and take us home and we love it. So I think sort of for social situations and challenges like that, nothing really changed. I went to what I wanted to go to and I didn't go to what I didn't want to go to. I think maybe before, if I was drinking, I would sometimes go to things that I was like, I don't know if I really want to be here, but I know when I get there, if I have enough to drink, I'll be fine. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, if it's not something I feel happy to go to, I know my limit and I just say no. And it's sort of with the friends I've got, and again, I'm quite lucky and quite happy to say that nobody's really disappointed or shameful. I think you find that a lot in the younger generation, though. We are a bit more accepting of people having different sort of preferences, whether they want to drink, whether they want to, I don't know, smoke, do whatever. We're a little bit more accepting than maybe previous generations were.
Yeah, I think especially as well with you being at uni, I think there's more of a understanding from that point of view. I look
Yeah.
at it from my side of things. I come from like playing in football teams and things like that, and it's again ingrained in the culture having a pint after the game. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like you'd get a little bit of stick for it, a laugh maybe, but it maybe would put a bit of pressure on some people that necessarily don't want to drink.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you say, you've got lucky. You now say yes or no to the things that you actually want to do instead of
Mhm.
being driven by that sort of Dutch courage, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that then, where it seems like you were very sort of stop drinking and it was sorted. Did you have any sort of cravings or anything to maybe go on a night out, maybe as a one-off?
Mm. I think cravings, not really cravings, but the
Yeah.
desire to go and have a drink and stuff didn't come from sort of nights out. I think I've moved past undergrad uni nights out. We're all sort of, all me and my friends were all postgraduate PhD students, and we're like, no, we have labs to do in the morning. We can't go. Most of the sort of times when I wanted to drink was sort of if I was at home with my boyfriend or going out for a meal with my family or anything like that. I sort of would think, oh, one glass of wine, one gin and tonic would be okay. But I think knowing in my head that often one glass of wine, it was never one glass of wine. It would be two, it would be three, it'd be the bottle shared and we'd all just, and it would escalate. And I think then it would turn into something I didn't want. And so I just sort of would try and cut off at the start. And as you mentioned, sort of alcohol-free beers and things like that, I feel like quite lucky for when I've decided to stop that we have so many really good alternatives because you go to different restaurants, you go to different bars, even to just regular pubs, and there's normally something you can have an alcohol-free gin, an alcohol-free wine, ciders, things like that, mocktails. There's so many options, and so I'd never feel left out. And I would have something like that to sort of cure the craving for alcohol because it tasted so similar. It was still a fun drink. I was with my friends, I was with my family, but it never would then turn into let's get really drunk. It was sort of that stopping point, and I think that really helped at the beginning. And now I love alcohol-free alternatives. I've got like little Aperol spritz, like mock Aperol spritz cans in my cupboard. So every time I sort of think the sun comes out and everyone goes, let's go have an Aperol, I'm like, I've got my own. I'm fine. I can do it. I can join in too, and it's really useful to have. Yeah.
Yeah, so that you're almost still fitting in with having the drink in your
Yeah.
hand, and it still looks like one of them. You're just not
Yeah.
getting the the bad effects the day after, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say now, there's so many options out there. Whereas I remember a few years back, I did Tough Mudder, and after that, they were giving out like a vegan non-alcoholic beer. And honestly, I took a sip right in front of the person and I put it in the bin. I said, sorry, I can't drink it. It was awful. But now, so the Guinness Zero tastes near enough exactly like a Guinness. And there's a few other ones that I found as well, which every now and again there'll be an offer on Tesco or something. I'll just pick up a 4-pack of them just to try them out. And
I've even
the
found
more and more I'm doing it.
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Like I say, abroad, because I went away to Amsterdam recently, and even places like that where sort of beer culture is so big, you go into the supermarket, you go into anywhere, and they've got some kind of alternative, a Heineken Zero, they've got mocktail cans, they've got mocktails on the menu, and it's like you can go away on holiday and try new alcohol-free alternatives. That's like when you go away and you try a new drink, a new beer, the local sort of thing. I could still do that and still join in with things like that, and I think that's a really good thing as well. It's not just sort of UK, it's abroad as well, which I've found really great as well.
I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger, but the only thing, like you said, with going on holiday, it's finding something new and then not being able to get it over here. I always say about the Aldi middle aisle, never fall in love with the Aldi middle aisle, because if you find something there, it won't be there the next week.
No, never.
So with you, obviously you have your fitness account as well.
Yeah.
How has being alcohol-free impacted your fitness, I hate the word, but journey? How has that affected you? Have you noticed any sort of differences in strength, endurance, recovery? Obviously, you're not having those really late nights and rough days after. How's it affected your health and fitness?
I'd say my recovery is definitely better. Absolutely. I think sort of when I would be drinking and running, because I've started picking up a lot of running, I would get shin splints and I would be in a lot of pain. And I remember being in bed crying with really terrible shin splints, but wanting to go and run the next day. And I haven't had that in the whole year that I've stopped drinking. It's sort of, I can sleep better, I can recover better, and I feel a lot better. I think, I mean, I hate to say my strength's gone down because it has, but that's because my goals had changed. I'd gone from doing a lot of strength training and now transitioning into a lot of running. But that's just on me more than anything, on my changing in priorities. But my running's a lot better. So it's sort of a trade-off that I've got. I'm getting faster. So I'm more than happy with that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the main one for me is the sleep. Like, I'm not the best sleeper anyway, but I listened to a really good podcast by Andrew Huberman. Might be down your sort of realms, coming from the science background. It's a really good, I think it's about 2 or 3 hours long. It is long, but really interesting on the impacts of alcohol on your body, especially with sleep. And as little as one alcoholic drink can affect your sleep. And that's the main thing that I'm seeing. Like, I don't drink now just for because I'd usually go around to like my parents to watch the football. I might have a couple of bottles of beer. Pointless at the end of the day. That's going to affect my sleep in the long run. I've got obviously a busy job, my online coaching, I've got the podcast to deal with. I don't need like any worse sleep than I already get. But with the alcohol-free stuff, have you then moved that into your nutrition as well? Have you found your nutrition's got better as a result of going alcohol-free?
I think, I mean, I've always had a passion about eating well, having good nutrition and things like that. Before I went into the science that I'm in now, I used to want to be a nutritionist and a dietitian. And then I sort of had two paths and I took the other one. I went down microbiology. But it's still something I really enjoy reading about, listening to on podcasts, learning about, and something I always kind of have in my mind as well. But I think where my nutrition sort of seen the most improvement is, I mean, when you go out and you drink and you get drunk, you want to go and have a takeaway at the end of the night. You want to come home and have something comforting before you go to bed to soak it all up. And I'm not having that. Granted, if I go out with my friends and I have some alcohol-free alternatives and I still get back at 1 a.m. after being at Taylor Swift nights and things, I'll still have a snack. But it's not the same as having a kebab or having something like that. It's that really. And until you take it out, you don't really notice that it's gone, and it makes a big difference. And you might think one takeaway a week, a month, whatever, but when it's gone, you notice it. And I think that's really where I'm seeing it's sort of that subconscious, like I'm not thinking about my nutrition because I was drunk, because I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
And then that's when those sort of bad things would creep in. So
instead of getting the kebabs or pizzas,
yeah.
you're going home to some chicken and rice.
That's nice. Like a little protein bar under the bed, and I'm like, let's go.
So, leading into that, then, have you seen any changes in your mental health and well-being? Do you feel more positive? Or obviously, you're not having those lows. Obviously, alcohol's a depressant as well.
Yeah.
What sort of effect does it have on your mood?
I think I've been a lot more stable with my mood, as you say, sort of the depressant of alcohol. And then sort of when you are drunk, you can have these high highs and you feel unstoppable and on top of the world kind of thing. And I won't lie, but in the past when I've been out to go drink and I've had a great time, I've had fun, I've felt that really high, but then the next day you feel terrible. And I think dealing without that and just having a stable sort of pretty happy, pretty good mood is what I've been feeling now. And I think I'm better equipped to deal with when things go wrong. I'm sort of, my mood is a lot more stable. Got a lot less anxiety, a lot less stress. I'm more equipped to deal with anything that comes along in life. If things go wrong, if any bad life events happen, things like that, my mood is a lot more stable. I feel a lot calmer in myself, a lot better in myself. So I'm able to deal with those things. I've found that has been a really big benefit as well. But then again, better sleep. If I have a good night's sleep, I'm feeling refreshed in the morning. I'm not going to snap at you. I'm not going to be angry. It's been great all around, really, mental health wise and sort of well-being wise as well.
I imagine that also benefits your friendships with obviously friends and family. Have they noticed a difference? Have they said anything? Gave you any feedback?
My boyfriend's noticed that I'm a lot less likely to pick a fight. Nothing serious, but he's like, you don't get mad at me when I do stupid things anymore. And I'm like, no, yeah, I do. I just don't tell you. It's like I think less because obviously I'm not with my family at the moment. I've moved away and I'm at university and stuff, so they maybe don't see it as much. But my boyfriend definitely, when he comes to see me and when he's here, he says I am a lot calmer. I don't get as stressed about things and argumentative and things like that. And I think drinking really can do that to sometimes sort of you really heightened emotions and things like that. You pick fights with people, you sort of say things you wouldn't normally say, and I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm sort of, if I say something to you, it's because I mean it and I want to say it to you. It's not because I'm drunk and I'm just absolutely running my mouth for no reason sort of thing.
So you're more in control with your emotions.
Absolutely,
then. Yeah. You don't have to deal with that anxiety.
No.
There's no snappy days the day after because you're tired.
Yeah, no more
Everyone's benefiting. Yeah. Out of interest, has your boyfriend gone alcohol free or considering it on the back of you doing it?
He hasn't, no. And I mean, that's his decision to make, and I would never. And I think the way he drinks and the way he copes with alcohol is completely different to how I do. He's sort of happy enough to have one beer, one drink, and be absolutely fine, and not sort of want to have 2, 3, 4. And that's his sort of decision to make. And I don't think I would ever try and sort of enforce that onto him. He's had days and evenings out where we've both not drunk and things like that, and he enjoys it and it's fine. But if he wants to come for a meal and have a beer with it, that's absolutely on him. And I think we've got that sort of mutual respect that you've made your decision, I've made mine, and we're both more than happy with it. So
I think that's really good because quite often these days, especially on social media, you can see that people try and cancel each other out just because they've got different opinions, and instead of accepting that two people can have two different opinions on something and you can still be friends and get along. I think that's really important, especially in a relationship as well.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it before, alcohol can give you that bit of Dutch courage, a little bit of confidence. How have you found it affecting your confidence? Because in certain situations, a couple of drinks might get you through something. Have you had to work on your self-confidence, then put yourself into those situations without alcohol?
I think certain situations, yes. I think sort of if I'm out with people I don't know, or I'm with a few friends and I don't know some people, normally you need that Dutch courage, that sort of little bit of a push. But I've just kind of got to find that in myself now. I'm not the most outgoing person in a large group. If I'm sort of one-on-one with people and I know you very well, I'm best friends, we're talking all night, it's great.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people find that if you're in a big group, you can try and sort of shrink yourself into the background. Whereas if I was drinking, I would get sort of be drunk and be loud and be sort of fake over the top with it. And I think I'm just more confident in the fact that, yeah, I can be quite quiet, but it doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't mean I'm not interesting. I'm still, if I want to talk to you, I sort of more wait for people to come and talk to me, which I think isn't the best. And I could probably work on that. But yeah, it's sort of, I know my limits and I'm happy with them. And I think also I find a lot that I'm putting myself in situations I want to be in. So I have the confidence to say, no, I don't really want to come to that. I don't really want to do that. I'd rather not. I'd rather sit at home and read a book and be on my own. But when I am out with you, you have my full attention. I'm more than happy to be here. I'm more than confident in whatever situation I'm in. I think that's kind of where I'm at this point. So
I think obviously the more you put yourself into those potentially slightly uncomfortable situations, the more your comfort zone is going to grow. And obviously over time, you're going to naturally have to do it more and more because you've not got the alcohol to maybe push yourself into those situations. You're just going to grow as an individual, and it's more of a permanent growth more than you have a couple of drinks. You have that almost fake growth to go and do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And then you go back to being sober and your comfort zone shrinks back up again. Whereas you're potentially going to just see that comfort zone getting bigger and bigger over time. We touched on it a little bit before with the social media. You've come across some podcasts and content. What role did the social media and sort of community support of being alcohol-free play in your journey?
I think for the original step, listening to podcasts was like the best thing I could have done. There was a couple of podcasts that I would listen to on my walk to work, on my walk to the gym, anywhere. Like at the gym, I just kind of immersed myself in it and just was like podcast every day, just to listen to people's stories, to listen to sort of even the research on with sleep and how alcohol affects your body, sort of shorter podcasts on things. I was just trying to learn as much and gain as much information as I could and sort of think, is this really what I want to do? Is this really for me? And really just get every tool that was available out there. I think I never really posted much about this until just this 1 year post. I maybe occasionally shared a few things on stories when I hit milestones, sort of 6 months, 9 months, things like that. But I kept a lot of it quite close to my chest. And I don't really know why. I think it was more that I didn't feel like I had the right to share because I hadn't done a year, I hadn't done 2 years. There's people out there who've done 6, 7 years and they know so much more and they've been through so much more. And I think at that point I was like, I've only done 2 months. Who's going to want to know about me? Nobody cares. And so I sort of really kept it quite quiet and just sort of slowly did things in the background. So with regards to sort of sharing, I didn't. But that was sort of my own personal decision and what I felt comfortable with. But even when I would post a small milestone or would interact with other creators, I found a few people would follow me that were also on sober journeys and who are alcohol free, or they'd message me and say, "Oh no, I'm 3 years, I'm so many months," and I'd find little sort of members of communities and little things like that. And I think it was really nice to find sort of quiet support rather than have everybody going, "Yeah, amazing, you're incredible." Having a few people just give you a DM and say, I was in that position too, I've done that too, you're doing really well, lovely to see other creators are doing this, and having small conversations every now and then has been a bit sort of my style of how I like to do things, and it's been really great. So
I think being around like-minded people is obviously very important, and I guess you can almost curate your social media feeds to show all of that stuff that helps you push along the way. Just going back to what you said at the start of that in terms of gathering information, with your background in science, was it the science information that you were gathering or was it just general information about the benefits of going sober?
I think originally it was just sort of the general how people feel, personal experiences and things like that. I read quite a few books and I sort of took personal anecdote sort of things, and then it sort of evolved into listening to certain people talk about the science of things, and me being the absolute nerd that I am would then go and find research papers that had been done studies on this, and I think because that's where my mind goes. It's sort of somebody will say something, alcohol improves your sleep by X amount, whatever. And I go, no, I want to go read that. I want to go see if that's the conclusions they draw and how much, who was in the study, what was going on. I think that's my mind to think. So it started with just stories and anecdotes, and then it evolved into, no, actually, I want to know a lot more about this. And even to this day, I've probably got like 5 tabs open on my computer somewhere that's like alcohol and the immune system, alcohol and whatever. And it's always ticking around in the background somewhere. I'll hear something and want to know more.
You'll definitely enjoy that Andrew Huberman podcast. I'll send you a link after
I'm
this.
going to have to listen.
But as well, going back to you saying about you've only done it for 6 months or a year, I wouldn't necessarily belittle yourself on that, because most people can't go a week without touching an alcoholic beverage of some sort. So, yeah, I think you should be, in a way, proud of what you've done and how you've managed to do a full year. We're talking 365 days. There's so many, you've got at least a birthday and Christmas in that time. And then obviously family events and everything else and other celebrations. So, yeah, I wouldn't put yourself down on that side of things. And I think you'd be surprised at how many other people are probably in a similar position or thinking about doing it.
Yeah.
And I think just by putting a couple of posts out there, you could potentially inspire others to do it. I think you've got around, 16,000 followers on Instagram. There's going to be a fair few people that are in similar mindsets, at least anyway. So is that something that you're going to be posting a little bit more about now that you've hit your year, or is it going to go back to big milestones?
I think I'm going to be a bit more vocal about it. I mean, I've just bought a pin badge that sort of celebrates it, and I've got it on my work lanyard. So I'm like, even in day-to-day life, if somebody goes, what the hell does that mean? Why are you wearing that? I feel a bit more sort of, I've hit the year. I'm more than happy to sort of go, you know what, I've been through a birthday, I've been through Christmas, I've been through nights out with friends, I've been through work events, that I feel like I've got more confidence to speak about it. It's not sort of the right to speak about it, it's the confidence in, actually, no, I've survived through these things, I've made it through, I believe in myself and I know what I'm doing now, kind of thing. And sharing on social media, I think I'm going to make it a little bit more vocal and sort of talk about it more, because it is so important in my life. I think now I've sort of accepted that this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, and I want to kind of bring more noise about it, make a bit more of a splash, and sort of try and inspire others and things like that.
I'm sure you can. Like I say, you've got the platform already there, ready to go. So it's not like you're starting from 0 followers from scratch. I'm sure you'll make at least a splash, so to speak. Have there been any unexpected benefits of going alcohol-free in terms of, I don't know, energy levels, finances, personal growth? Because obviously going out is not cheap anymore in the UK, especially post-lockdowns. Have there been any, like I say, unexpected benefits that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of?
I mean, saving on finances has been great, but then I have ended up spending that on a lot of other things. I sort of go, oh, well, I haven't bought so much alcohol, I've saved so much money so I can buy my pair of running shoes, buy myself some new gym stuff. I'm like, so the money just is gone, but it's gone to more fun things, in my opinion.
There's experiences and
experiences, going on events, going to museums, things like that. Sounds dry, but going out to, like, down to the beach and going to see things and having a meal rather than paying for sort of a bottle of wine and sitting in a hotel room sort of thing. It's like having fun and doing things. So I've saved money in one aspect, but I've spent it just as quickly but on other things. I think energy levels definitely have gone up. I mean, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. to get to the lab for 6 at the minute, so I'm sort of really dragging my feet with energy. I'm sort of sat here going, but if I'd have gone out at the weekend, it would be even worse. There's no way you want to be less when you're hungover than in a lab. It's white.
I can imagine that would
noisy.
It would lead to some errors in your tests as well, I imagine.
I've done it before and it's horrible, and that's something every time I'm in there thinking, yeah, at least I'm not hungover. That sort of really gets you through. So yeah, energy levels have gone up when I'm getting a full night's sleep and not up to 5 a.m. labs. I think personal growth as well. I am sort of, I say, more confident in myself. I feel a bit more assured in the decisions I make in my life and things like that. And the friends that I've got. I never lost friends from stopping drinking, but I think that has reaffirmed that, I've got some pretty good friends. I've chosen the right people to be in my life. My family, they don't really care. They're like, as long as you're happy, as long as you're healthy, we're more than happy for you. So I think I've got great family, great friends, and it just makes you feel a little bit happier inside that you've done good. You've got good people around you. You feel good, and it sort of uplifts me. So yeah.
I think that family and friend support network is very important because obviously these are the people that you're spending a lot of time with. And if there's a few of them, even a couple within a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe saying some negative things, then your, as we keep saying, journey would potentially have been a lot more difficult. You seem to have not necessarily had it easy, but you've been lucky with
Yeah.
the people around you in terms of being very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
With not necessarily the free time because you are still going out and stuff, have you discovered any new hobbies or interests, or is it just doing more of the stuff that you were enjoying previously?
I've picked up doing crafts, which is very bizarre. I mean, I used to love doing crafty things when that sounds weird, but I used to like doing crafts when I was a kid. You always do like making pictures, doing things like that. So I've started doing crochet, like an old little nana doing crochet, watching TV in the evenings.
There's a girl I
And
used to work with that took up crochet.
yeah, it's sort of, you sit there and you're watching a movie, or you sit there and you're watching something and you think, oh, I could just have a glass of wine, I could just have a drink. And if I'm sat there crocheting, if I was drunk, it would not look right. Things would look terrible. I couldn't do it. So it was started off as sort of keep me busy, keep me not thinking about it. And now it's just turned into, I just want to make fun things. I made Christmas decorations. I made Halloween decorations. It was like a fun little thing. And
Nice.
also, so where I am doing my PhD, we have sort of a student committee where we can go and do events for the students.
Okay.
And so a long-winded explanation for what I want to say. But so at the institute that I'm at, we can't spend any of the money for sort of student activities on alcohol. It's a policy that we've got, which I think is great. It's sort of in a lot of university committees and things, a lot of the money goes to events with alcohol and drinking and sort of things like that. And we can't spend that. So we have to find other things to do. And so we've
That's quite a
gone,
good idea.
it's great. We've gone and done pottery painting, roller skating, bowling. We've gone to, I'm trying to remember where we go to, but we go and do all these like little fun little things that you haven't done since you were a kid. Like I haven't been bowling for years, but we went and went bowling and things like that. And you just sort of, it's not something I do regularly, but having the fun with my friends and thinking, no, actually, I will take myself pottery painting another day, and finding all these little hobbies that I forgot that I had, or little sort of fun activities that I used to do as a kid. Used to go and do roller skating with your friends, and it's like little things like that I've sort of found more enjoyment in, except for the roller skating. I'm really bad. I got really bad bruises, and my friend sort of made me jump the whole time. It's horrible.
Oh dear, that's not what you need. But yeah,
Everybody else had fun.
I think that's a really good idea though to do the events without having to
Yeah.
go and do a
Mhm.
drink, basically.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone then that's considering going down the same route, or potentially even just drinking less in general?
Yeah. I think my main piece of advice, and it's obviously what I did, so that's sort of why I'm saying it, but is to learn, is to listen to other people, to read sort of, it's called Quit Lit, so literature about quitting alcohol, books and things like that. Read, listen to podcasts, listen to people, follow Instagram accounts that sort of talk about quitting alcohol, and just listen to other people and learn from other people. It's really interesting, it's really inspiring, and you find these people who've had these really terrible relationships with alcohol, really bad relationships, but then you find people similar to myself who are just normal people who just want to not drink anymore, who just sort of have really mundane lives, really chill, sort of married with kids, people like that. And you go, no, your story's really interesting, even though you just live a normal life. And sort of you get exposed to all these sort of stories, and you learn, and you sort of think, actually, no, I can do this. I don't have to have some big catastrophe happen to me. And I
Yep.
think that's sort of somewhere to start. But then also to get started and to stay started, you've got to sort of have a why. Sort of, why do I want to do this? And when I was sort of feeling in difficult situations and struggling at the start, I would always go back to, but why did I stop? Why did I want to do this? And you go back to it. You have that little reason, And you don't have to tell anyone, you don't have to make it, you don't have to write it anywhere. But if you know it and you sort of think, now this is why, you've got something to go back to. So if you're sat there going, I really want some wine, I really want a drink, I'm out with my friends and I really, really want to, you can sit with yourself and go, no, I have a reason. This is my why. And you've got that to sort of keep you on track. And I found that's been really helpful. I've got it written, scribbled in the back of a notebook, and I go back and I find it and I write a little thing extra and sort of go, no, put the date in and go, no, yeah, I didn't have a drink. It's really helped, and that's it. And nobody has to know that it's there. Nobody has to know that you do it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that little sort of, it's like a hug. It's like a little sort of, no, you're fine, and sort of keeps you safe. So yeah.
I think it's really important for people to realise that you don't necessarily have to be having a really bad problem or issue with alcohol, like you've said. It can just be the fact that you don't want to wake up the next day and feel rough or have that anxiety or anything like that. You don't have to be like at a rock bottom position. And yeah, those little ways to just stay motivated with it. And I think it's also important in this era of, you know, the whole 75 hard. If you fail, you've got to start at zero again. I really don't think that's good for people. It's quite toxic in a way. And it puts quite a lot of unnecessary pressure on things that don't generally mean that much day to day. If you can be like if you can do 100 days and then all of a sudden on the 101st day you have a sip of a drink, I don't think you need to just that's it, done. Forget the countdown or time you've got. Obviously, like yourself, you counted the year. For some people that might be important, but I don't think you need to put the pressure on to get to that year and not have touched alcohol. If you've done 364 out of 365 days, it's pretty impressive if you think about it. So I don't, if anyone is going through this at the moment and you do slip up, we're only human at the end of the day. I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you can do the majority, then I
will say the counting app that I use, I really like it. It sort of prompts you first thing or whenever you want it to in the morning to check in and see how you're doing. And you can add sort of little motivational reasons into it. So like I said, with that, have your why, you can write one in, and every morning it'll pop up and it'll show it to you, and you can put pictures in, you can put anything in that you want. And then at the end of the day, it does a little check-in and goes, just to make sure, did you have a drink? And you can put in how you feel, sort of if you had cravings, if anything's improved. It's not just a count the days. You can use it as sort of a little diary as well. And I did at the beginning. It's called I Am Sober, I think. But it's for not just for alcohol. You can do it for sort of drugs, for smoking, for vaping, for even things like, I don't know, like having takeaways and things like that. You can put anything in there that's sort of something you want to stop, and you can kind of track and see how you're getting on with it. And in the beginning, I really did. I've stopped so much now, but I really did sort of every day check in, tell them how I was feeling. And you get quite a lot of milestones in the first sort of 3 weeks. It's like, you've done 2 days, you've done 3 days. And you're like, yeah, I've done it. And it really sort of boosts your mood. And then when you get to the end, it's like, I've done 224 days. And it's not anything exciting, but I'd still tick it off. I might not put in exactly how I felt, but I would still be like, yeah, I've done it. Keep going.
It's those little dopamine hits, isn't it, that keep it going. And we'll get a link for that in the show notes below if anyone wants to check it out. So just to round this one off then, what's next for you in your so-called health and wellness journey? Is there anything that you're working towards? You mentioned that you're doing running, and do you sort of plan to make this a lifelong, I guess, commitment to not drinking alcohol?
So I'm training for a marathon at the minute, and then stupidly in the same month, the week before, I've got a half marathon as well. I've really overshot April, really.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's exciting things all the same. So I'm not going to pick up drinking at all because I've got so much running to do. I've got so much training to do. It's not even in my mind. I want to get to the marathon. I want to get to that, and I'm excited for it. And I've got other races planned for the end of the year as well. Just signed up for another one this week. Well, signed up this week for in September, not this week.
Have you done a marathon before, out of interest?
I haven't. No, I've done 2 half marathons.
Right.
Never the full one. It was a a mutual persuasion from me and my friend. We kind of went, oh, it would be nice. Maybe we should. And I went, no, let's book it. Let's do it. And then every day we're like, why did you let me book this? Why did we agree to this? We
Oh
both look at
dear.
each other. We both work together, and I see her, and I'm like, why did we agree to this? What were we thinking?
At least
But
doing it together.
yeah, we'll both be there together, so it'll be what it'll be. But no, yeah, and for me, being alcohol free, I want to make it a long term thing, but I'm never gonna have a sip of alcohol again because I don't know where my life's gonna go, but I'm gonna do everything within my power to not have any today. And I'm gonna say that to myself every day. And
Just one
hopefully
more day.
that means one more day, one more day. But I mean, I don't want to, but I'm not gonna sit here and go, I'm never gonna drink, I'm never gonna, and then if I make a mistake, if I do, then I don't want to be beating myself up going, I promised the world that I never would.
Yeah,
I'm going to just take it day by day and be myself and do what I think is best for me. And at the moment, that's not have any alcohol because it's just not serving me, so to speak.
I think that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Not putting too much pressure on if you do potentially slip. It's not even necessarily slipping up. You are still allowed to go and have that drink
Yeah.
if you want to have it. Like I was saying before, if you can do 99 days out of 100,
Yeah.
it's all rounded up. It's
Yeah.
100% pretty much.
And in the future, I may want to celebrate with a glass of champagne or something and have one
Exactly.
sip and then not drink the rest and do it like that. I don't know. I don't know where my life is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's some great alcohol-free champagnes. So that's what I've got for now.
Exactly. Right now, alcohol free.
Absolutely.
No, I think this podcast is going to probably help quite a lot of people. I think you'll be surprised how many people are in a similar position to you were a year ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of response off the back of it to say, I'm going to do it too.
Yeah. That's all I want, really, for other people to go, somebody else can do it who's just a person.
Yeah.
It's not a celebrity. It's not like somebody who's had a terrible experience. It's just, I want to try and see what happens. And that sort of makes me feel really happy. So, yeah.
Exactly. Ellen, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
You.
Very much appreciate it.
Thanks.
If you've got this far in the podcast, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like. And if you're new, subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.